Good, 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 good. Just making sure the mic is working properly. Now, folks, what I'm going to do with you today, as promised, I'm not going to introduce you to any new material, but I'll just go through. I'll give you a little bit of a guidance on the assignments. Is that okay for you? No? Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, first things first. The second individual assignment, the monitoring and control assignment, as I call it, you do know that that's due on the 29th of March. Yeah. Good. 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 So I just bear with me while I share the screen to get this visible for me. Okay. Right. Just to talk you through this. Um, You're asked here to write on the two following core elements of project management: monitoring and control. And how I'd suggest you'd go about that is, firstly, just generically look at what are each of those concepts. What do they mean in project management terms? What does monitoring mean in project management? And what does control mean in project management? So high level, theoretical stuff. Okay. I'm assuming you're following me. Ask me any questions if you wish on this. Um, anyway, we'll come back to where we were. Just let me move this down here so as we can see it. Right, on this, the main idea behind this is to talk about monitoring and control in projects, and also that you use a working example, and the working example is the Meteor methodology that I showed you. So starting this project, remember now it's only maximum 2,000 words, so there's not a lot in that, you know. And what I want you to do is describe, go and do a little bit of research on through the notes and through Google, wherever, or any kind of half decent project management site or work. But we did talk about monitoring and control, and talk about the concepts of it, what it means in project management, each of those. So start with monitoring and then control. In project management, this means this, and this is, and these techniques are used for whatever. Just talk about those two concepts, and then apply those definitions to the project management methodologies in Meteor. Okay, so do you remember the as I call it, the worked example? It's one of your recorded lectures, and I used the Meteor, how we redesigned the project management methodology, and how we introduced toll gates and milestones, and we have the go no go decisions. That's what I'm after. So they're the mechanisms that we put in place, plus project reports, earned value reports. You don't have to do any work on them, just talk about earned value, how it's a highly effective project management tool to enable you to continuously track and monitor the progress of projects, and how you can control the projects by taking corrective actions. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for you in this assignment. So there's not a lot. So, and pull in some of the diagrams that you would have used, you know, in the from the PowerPoints. They're all in there, so you can use an example of what a toll gate. Here's a project methodology. You can even go onto the web and you'll find all sorts of versions of waterfall methodology. That's fundamentally what it all comes down to. You know, these steps. So feasibility, then planning, then implementation and execution, and test and design, all those different phases. So just pull one of those diagrams, or even use the Meteor one to show the phased diagrams, and talk about phases and how you can control phases. And a toll gate, remember, is what happens at the end of a toll gate, at the end of a phase. So if you have, for example, the feasibility phase, you have toll gate 0 and then toll gate 1. So toll gate 0 is we've decided to kick off the project. What input that to us was the technology products and services roadmap. So we have a possible contender, a possible project that we want to run. And from there you go and you have a series of meetings in the project itself, and that series of meetings will monitor and track what you're actually doing, and so they're milestones. So then you might have what's known as milestone 4, for argument's sake. You can have as many of these as you wish inside there, but usually they're at logical stages. So we've done the feasibility of one package or group of deliverables. Now we'll go on to the next group. And when we've them all together and we've done all the planning or all the feasibility and we've gathered all the requirements, we have entry exit criteria. So we have a final meeting. So a milestone 4 might be the meeting title or phase. And we say, have we got all of the requirements identified? Have we got everything planned, or reasonable detail of planning and costs and time and schedule? And say yes, yes, yes. They're the exit criteria. So be careful of that one. Just watch that you have the exit criteria. So when you tick the boxes, it's a checklist, literally, these exit criteria. When you tick those boxes at the end of the feasibility phase, at meeting milestone 4, then we say we've finished that phase. So toll gate 1 has been passed. Okay. And then you go into toll gate 2. So, and technically you can have some items that are not completely finished. They're still outstanding. So there might be small or minor issues that are that need to be reviewed in maybe 1 week's time or 2 weeks' time. So we create what's known as an exemption. So we've passed toll gate 1 with the following exemptions. Some further work is needed on this activity, some further work is needed on this costing and so on, but this will be finished in 2 weeks' time and it has been actioned to one of the project team to complete this work. So we have these exemption requests. That's what they're formally known as in terms of documentation. So between what we already have agreed that has passed toll gate 1 plus any exemptions, that's the total picture of toll gate 1. So we know exactly where, so we can proceed into the next phase, which might be the design phase or the planning phase. And then we look at the criteria again. Have we done all that's expected of us at the end of the planning phase, and then go into the implementation phase, and so on and so on. That's all that's in there now. So you use the material and the diagrams that and the PowerPoints to pull diagrams out to explain the flow from start to finish and how you're monitoring and control, and build in the concept of earned value management as a continuous monitoring and control mechanism that we use at project meetings. So if we have project meetings every 2 weeks, then we'll do an analysis. Or if we have them every month, then we'll do an earned value report as well. And that helps us to try and future-proof the objectives of the project's delivery on time, cost, and within quality, or according to the whatever the agreed contract might be. And also it enables us to identify and reduce or eliminate any risks that might be coming in the next phase or in the next reporting period. So it's continuous monitoring and control of the earned value. So you get the idea of that, and that's it's a nice handy little assignment, but it pulls it all together and it creates a clear picture of the importance of those two functions of project, and more precisely of the project manager. And that's fundamentally what your job is all about. And the more data you have, the better decisions you'll be able to make, and it all comes out. Otherwise, if you don't have enough data and you can't answer the questions, then you're going to have a lot of sleepless nights. tearing your hair out, wondering, will this be okay? I hope this is okay. I hope this works out. I hope. And you will be a nervous wreck before the end of the project. So have all the mechanisms in place to give yourself a little bit more breathing space, but also to interact with the project and be comfortable about the execution of the project. And that's why I'll say that a good project manager is worth his weight in gold, because he takes control and takes the responsibility and accountability of his deliverable, which is the project itself, and you can trust him. Have you any questions on that, folks?
No, that's clear now.
That's clear. Excellent. Everyone else happy? If you want to just use the reactions and give me a thumbs up if you're oh, hang on, give me a thumbs up if you're clear and happy enough on how you're doing on this. Yeah, good. Excellent. Okay, now I'll go on and talk about the other one. See if this works as well. And that's that one, the group project. Let's see, does that work? Second. Should be this one. Okay. And I'll enlarge this one as well so as we can see this. Now, I'll only go through so much detail on this for obvious reasons. Now, this project looks more difficult than it actually is. Okay. And you've got all of this text going on inside here, and you're told Lemming TV, production company specializing in making outside broadcasts, specials, for a variety of different TV networks. It was recently commissioned to make a series of summer roadshow programs, which would be shot at locations around Europe during the spring and early summer, and broadcast by the customer, a satellite broadcasting network, during the summer. So that's clear. Satellite broadcasting network company has hired your company to go and make these short videos or short commercials. The program would involve circus acts, displays, events, and computer graphics displays to entertain the crowds, and popular entertainment acts and interviews, which would be interspersed with constant games. Okay, bit of a fun side to it. Managing the preparation for the series was the responsibility of the show's producer, Flo Brown. That's her name. I can't argue with that. Flo, who had recently graduated with distinction from her MBA course. Good girl, Flo. Fair play to you. Knew that she would need to keep a tight grip on the arrangements for the road series. So here you are, monitoring and control. She needs to watch this very carefully because there's so many parts that need to interact up here. So that's she knows precisely what she has to do. The shooting would start at the end of May, and the final show would be recorded at the end of July. So the shows would be broadcast early in July and late August. So any delay, either in recording the material or in editing the programs, would cause considerable complications. So we know that there's time frames involved, and we need to now get down to the detail of this. The company had known that it would be commissioned to make the programs since December. So this was in December and she's starting in May. But Flo had only been allocated a job in early February. Her first act was to list various jobs which would have to be done before shooting could start. She then discussed each job with the part of the company which would carry it out to try to understand what decisions would need to be made before they could start the jobs. And here you have the producer's responsibility. So the job which needs to be done prior to the start of the shooting are listed below. So What was the pre-work that had to be done? Schedule the venues, define. So remember, and sometimes, strangely enough, as it may sound, but oftentimes project managers or project administrators forget to include their own time, such as this part of it here, in calculating out the project and so on and so on. So she said it would take 2 weeks to finalize and could be started straight away. So defining the design concept would need discussions with chief designer and would take about 4 weeks of considering alternative designs before finalizing the concept, but could be started straight away. So immediately you know that the discussions with the venues and the design concept manager, these are two things that can start pretty much straight away. And then specifying computer graphics displays, again in consultation with the chief designer, it would take about a week, but that could not be started until the detailed planning. So straight away now you have a dependency. The graphic design can't take place until after the concept design has been discussed. So we need to have clarity. We need to define what is expected out of the computer graphics display. The design department's responsibility was producing artwork for printed materials, brochures, posters, advertising material. And that would take about 3 weeks, but could be started only after completion of the detailed planning. So until we know, and so she needs to know what acts, where she's going to be, the dates, she needs the precise dates that these interviews and special attractions and so on, all that planning has to be done before they can actually employ producing the artwork, and to have the detailed design as to how this will look, how the posters, the printed material, advertising, they need to have an idea of how this would look before. So you begin to get a sequence of events coming. So you have the graphic design people then will come in and do it, and then once the graphic design people have produced their drafts, and the manager and the chief designer have agreed on these concepts, the draft concepts, then they can go to producing the material, such as the paperwork. So you begin to see now there's a critical path being formed, in other words, a sequence of events that must take place. The program planning department's responsibilities, they were looking at booking and venues, a 1-week job, which could be started as soon as the venues had been decided by Flo. So she has an action point. Detailed planning, the preparation of detailed plans and schedules, a 2-week task which could be started once the design concept has been finalized, and then so on. And so you read down through all of these and you can see there, writing the graphics display software contracted out to a software house, it would take about 4 weeks, but could only be started after the computer graphics have been specified by the producer and chief designer. So it's an activity, there's 4 weeks of activity that can only be started after the producer, who is Flo, and the chief designer have agreed on what the graphics should look like. And then final testing and rehearsals, the program planning department was finally responsible for getting the whole act together, as she puts it, immediately prior to shooting. So when they have all the deliverables, to know what's happening, now we can put it all together and essentially do a dress rehearsal, so to speak. Then it goes on to say, testing and rehearsals could only start once the brochures had been printed, the vehicles fully fitted out and customized, and the promotion staff trained. So, and that would be one of the other outputs, the fitted out and customized. That could be the advertising on the actual vehicles themselves. So final tests and rehearsals should take around a week. That's best guesstimate. So if things went wrong at any stage, they could take longer. So again, final rehearsals, once all the material is done and vehicles are printed out, then they can go and do their final tests and rehearsals. So that's under critical path. The workshop's responsibility. So we have another department in here. Customizing and fitting out the vehicles after the vehicles are delivered and the artwork agreed and the computer graphics software finished, the vehicles could be fitted out and customized for the shows. This would normally take around 2 weeks. So that's now see, before you have the testing and so on, that final test should take place, and once the vehicles are fully fitted out. So now you're going back in time and say, well, for the vehicles to be available, these guys need 2 weeks to kit them out, fit them, and do all that sort of stuff in the artwork, and they have to have the vehicles delivered to them. So that's a critical path item as well. So start looking at these and the sequence of them. The personnel department they're responsible for recruiting and so on and so on and so on. Okay. So you have 4 questions to address in this assignment, and I'll just try and reduce this a little bit. Okay, just bear with me. You can still see those folks, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So I'll just slightly enlarge them. I'll go to 200%. And we'll do this. So there you have. You have four questions to address in the assignment. Can Flo get the project together in time to start shooting on schedule? That's your biggest task. And once you have that question pretty much sorted, then the rest is easy. Okay, where do we start with this? If you have access to Microsoft Project, well and good. You don't need it. It's not critical. You could pick a date, as I say. She can start. She's coming on board on the start of February, and you can assume that the start of February is the start of the project. Okay, even though they've known about it since December and beginning of January, so she hasn't been employed until the start of February. And what you do is you put in you list out all of your tasks. Now here's the upside of it. I'm recording this and I'll be shot. If you go into your Moodle page, and under the assessments, you'll actually find a spreadsheet, an Excel sheet, and it has a list of all the tasks in sequence that have to be done with an earned value calculations on it. So what you can do is you can take that. There might be some other information in there. It can't be overly explicit, but if you look at that, all the information in the assessments folder, you can create in Excel. You can create a Gantt chart, essentially, right? And you can see what items are critical, and then the total flow or the total sequence. So and working on the assumption for the moment that everything is going according to the descriptor there, you'll be able to calculate out the number of weeks she will be able to deliver the project, and if she's and the start date obviously would be, what was it, June or something like that, June or July. Can she get the project, and it's time to start shooting for the first series or the first thing. And which are the jobs which she will have to manage particularly closely? Clearly those that are on the critical path. Okay, so when you define, well, this has to be done first before we can do that, then that has to be done before we can do that, and that has to be done. And if there's a slippage, so if the computer designers come back and say, sorry, it's not 4 weeks, it's going to take 5 weeks because something, we're upgrading our systems, that pushes out your close date, if that was the case, right? So work out all of those things that are precisely on the critical path that has to be done first, then second, and then third. And you can work backwards. I said graphic design can't do anything without sign off of the artwork and so on and so forth. They can't do sign off without so on. So that's, and then what general advice would you give her to help her manage this project? Well, that's pretty much open to yourselves, but one of the things I would say is based on what you were doing in the assignment number 2. So a lot of the information you're using in assignment number 2, you can reuse in this. The monitoring and control, setting up proper schedules, critical meetings, having regular meetings. In this case, you might have a short meeting perhaps once a week, and break it down into phases. So as you can see, she has to talk to one department, then another department at the very start, and they can be started more or less at the same time, and then something else started slightly later. So you could say these are all the planning activities that needs to be taken into account, or these are these planning actions need to be done first. So we're clear on what we have to do, and then we do all these other sequences. So that's all you're asked to do in that third point. Look at the sequence, or look at the advice you give her. Adapt project management methodologies, break it down, phase the projects, and then make sure you have good monitoring and control mechanisms in place, that you have regular meetings, and that you're communicating with people. That's really important, because if someone might say, for example, the vehicles might be delayed, and if you're not interacting with the company that's going to prepare the vehicles and do the artwork on them, if you don't follow up and say they were due to be delivered on Thursday evening, are they happy? Did you get the vehicles? And they say they actually came Wednesday, so okay, we're on schedule, we're starting on schedule to do the work. And if someone said no, and we just heard word that they're not coming on Thursday evening, they won't be here until next Tuesday, straight away you could take action and say, well, what's happening? Is there something we can do to keep us going until Tuesday? Or phone the company and get them to deliver one van at least, and then we can work on the others the following week according to schedule. So that's how you're using the monitoring and control mechanisms to track what's happening in the projects and to remove any potential delays. And then finally, create an earned value chart based on the information below. Okay, so if you look at this earned, and this looks more daunting than it actually is. Why? Because it's done for you. It's done, it's up in Excel, it's in the Excel document. And can I actually show it to you? Oh no, actually, bear with me just 1 second. It's not that I'm showing, I just need to expand this a bit more. Get my head out of it. So yeah. Now, when you have done your Gantt chart, whether you do it in Microsoft Project or in Excel, doesn't particularly matter, but it helps you visualize seeing the critical path and all that sort of stuff. That's I won't say that it's not particularly a tough job, but it brings total clarity as to what the project would look like under normal circumstances. And you will find, I'll tell you straight up, that you will be able to get it done within time based on normal things happening. Okay, could you deliver based on the information? In question 4 here, all I'm doing is I'm throwing a little bit of a twist into it. The impact should be considered when these following things should be happening. So things happen during the project. So first of all, you have to assume the man-hour cost is 35 euros. So 5 euros being the profit element and 30 being the total cost element. So all the cost of materials and people's time and salary, we've grouped it all together and said that's 30 euros per hour. Okay, and then we add 5 euros on being profit. Okay, we know that standard there's 40 hours per week available to each person. Now, the reality is that you might be working 50 hours, maybe 60 hours, but remember, if you're working 50 hours, that's an extra 10 hours at 35 euros per hour. Okay, in the costs. Now, that's basic information. A couple of things begin to happen on week 5. So if you take the 1st of February as being, the first week in February being week 1, okay, this often confuses students. Sometimes they say, well, we'll start with the normal calendar. We say the first week in January is week 1. Therefore, the 4th week in February is when the project actually starts. And on week 5 of the project, which would be week 9, okay, are you following me? Yep, okay, good. What I would suggest is, just for simplicity, take the first week in February as being week 1 of the project. So we ignore the calendar week numbers. That makes life a little bit easier. But as long as you understand that, we do have the calendar weeks, and we're having the project weeks. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll take the start of February when Flow starts the project is week 1. So on week 5 of that, one person is unavailable due to illness. So we'll have to say, does that actually affect the project? Do you have enough information here? What person is it? Probably doesn't matter, because you can't say, well, is it a graphic design person? Or you could look at what activities are taking place in week 5, week 4, 5, and 6, and during week 5, we have a couple of people working on this thing. One of them is sick, or goes sick, and it's only for 1 week. Only for week 5 that person is unavailable. And then in week 8, we compound it a little bit more. We say that a fire affects production plans, delaying your project by 2.5 days. Now, I don't know what activity is happening in week 8. It's probably something around the fitting out of the artwork or something like that. And it causes a small fire, maybe damage some of the material, so it costs you 2.5 days. And then in week 9, the National Union of Journalists decide to have a strike for 1 week, affecting your staff. Maybe not all of your staff, but your staff who do not cross the picket line. So technically it affects all of your staff. Okay, so that's the risk here. So straight away you're going to see there's potentially a strike in week 9 that could delay your project. Bear with me, because there's a twist in this. There's no overtime, okay, because you've budgeted on a 40-hour week, 30 euros per hour man-hour cost, plus 5 euros profit. So if you take, for example, that it takes 2,000 hours to complete the project, then that's 2,000 multiplied by 35, that's 7,000 euros, isn't it? 70,000 euros. Or it's 2,000 by 30 euros, which is the cost of the project. So we always factor in the total figure, the man-hour cost, as being 35 euros an hour. So for every day the project runs over the original plan, a 10% penalty will be applied on that basis. Okay, so every day, if you go beyond the 15 weeks or the agreed schedule, whatever you agreed, when everything is, before all of this stuff is even taken into account, and you've done your Gantt chart and say, yes, it can be done if we start in February, first week in February, 15 weeks, I think it is, it will be complete. And that's what the satellite TV company said, okay, we agree with that. And this is the cost, because we have X number of people, multiplied by the hours, multiplied by 40 hours per week, multiplied by the cost, and this is how much it's going to cost you. And the satellite company says, excellent, we'll sign off, we agree. And then stuff happens. So you have a penalty. So you must calculate the CPI and the SPI, the cost performance index and the schedule performance index at the end of week 7. Okay, so refer to the notes and write a short paragraph interpreting the future project status. Now, be careful. you have the outline, the baseline. I just reduced this for a moment. When you do your Gantt chart and you translate that into your earned value, you have your cumulative curve, which is in the spreadsheet. That's your baseline calculation. And what I'm asking you to do is project yourself out to week 7 and say, right, this is all the work that actually has been done at week 7. Assume you're at the end of week 7 and say, well, we've done this according to my Gantt chart. We started in week 1, we've done this in week 2, this in week 3, this in week 4, week 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and at week 7 we this is where we are today in week 7, and we've done all of this work. Not all of those constraints affect you. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Good. That's important. That's important because the stuff in week 8 and week 9 don't affect you. Okay, you're just taking a picture of week 7. They're kind of curveballs to throw in there, but it could show you what could happen. If I decided that I wanted to change this assignment brief and said, show me an earned value chart at week 11, then you would be all hell would break loose. Okay, week 7.
So when we do the plan versus actual, we don't have to count all these points that you mentioned.
You have to plan it for the full duration of the project, but you're only taking actuals up to week 7. So assume everything that you've done is actual, and that will and then use the usual formula to be able to predict the cost and schedule performance index. And again, they're inside in the spreadsheet. So just look at the numbers very carefully and so on inside the spreadsheet, and you'll yeah. And you're allowed to make some assumptions inside here in the project as well. Yeah, I won't say too much more, but you're allowed to make assumptions. And if you say, well, this isn't happening because this can be done more efficiently if we do X, Y, Z. So we might be able to save some time there, or we might put in 3 designers instead of 2 designers. Therefore, we can cut back a week or save a week. Whatever, it's up to yourself. But remember that when you throw resources at it, you have a deadline. I think it's the beginning of June, is it? Or what's the brief say? The show would be broadcast between early July and late, and that's not what I need. Flo has allocated a job in February. Where is it here? During the summer. So yeah, you have to have it available at the beginning or during the summer. Shooting should start at the end of May, and the final show should be recorded by the end of July. Okay, so shooting starts in May, and the final show ends in July. So you have February, March, April, May, June, July. Just watch that now. So you have to start shooting at the end of May. January or February, March, April, May. At the end of May. So the beginning of February, end of May is about 15 or 16 weeks, maybe a bit less, 12 weeks, whatever. Just do those calculations. So you know that week 1 is the first week in February. And I would sit down, just scale it out. I need to be ready to start shooting at the end of May, the last week in May, or assume it's the end of the last week in May. That's your finish date. That's when you've got to complete the project. Does all that advice help you?
Yeah.
So everyone is happy enough then on that.
Should we include something about the schedule comes to overcome the delay in the project?
Sorry, Sandra, I didn't catch that.
Should we include something about the schedule compression to overcome the delay project?
Um, the delay at the start of the project.
Like if there is some delay in the critical activities, then
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. You'll be now, but be careful on that because if we look down here, yes, you'll have to compensate for two. No, sorry, only one actually. So your baseline won't change. You're only going up as far as week 7. Everything else, so you really only have one element to look out for, and that's this week number 5. I'm circling this and you don't see it. Really, you only have this stuff. So this stuff is irrelevant. It's redundant.
okay.
Because if I were to say that do an earned value chart at week 10, then that will change. You'd have to take into account what happens in week 8 and week 9, but I'm not that nasty. Okay. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. So and I'm just opening up the spreadsheet. Suitable venue, booked venues planning. Yep. I just want to check something here.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Mann, I'm not clear with your project now. Yeah, could you share me again and explain it again? Sorry.
Which part?
Yeah, that's the part.
Huh? Sorry?
That the part you should choose in your.
This section down here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to. These are extra information. So when you've done, ignore all of this, or ignore this part of it. Do your Gantt chart. And when you translate your Gantt chart into your earned value chart, okay, you'll end up with a curved line. It's actually done inside in the spreadsheet for you. And when you've done the baseline, let me see, could I show it to you? Let me see. Yeah, I'll try show you this on the screen. Just bear with me. Where's my Excel earned value? Here it is here. Okay, can you all see that now? Yeah.
Yes, I can see that.
Okay, so here you have all the activities. Now it might be a little bit smaller on your screen. I can't enlarge it too much or I'll lose stuff on you. And I work on that basis. So here are all the activities. Week 1, see what I mean by week 1 through to week 15, 16, 17. So it's actually 17 weeks, give or take. So if you go down through this spreadsheet, you'll see where it makes sense. Like for instance, here is 4,004. Now these are only assumptions figures. You have to work out the number of people, multiply the number of people that are used on week 1. So there's only 2 or 3 people from memory working in week 1. They're working a 40-hour week and they are paid at 35 euros per hour. Okay, so do it that way and you'll get and follow that sequence. Just pretty much, if you look at see what I didn't do, and I don't have it here. Before you even do this, you'll have to work out your Gantt chart, which is each of these. So you'll find that schedule the venues first, and then design concept can be started on the 2nd week, and then 3rd week, and so on. So you can plot out a Gantt chart, and the Gantt chart will then translate into all of this, and you accumulate. I'll let you look at the spreadsheet itself. You can see how the figures are calculated. So that's week 14, or week 2 is 4,000 plus 10,000, giving you 14,000. Okay, and then I'm asking you down here on week 7. Well, this is week 5 in this case, but in week 7, show me what the figures will look like in week 7. So you'll have to come out and plot the graph to week 7. So calculate out the numbers to bring you up to week 7. And here, likewise, watch the calculations. These are based on week 5. You need to go, and week 5 is here. You need to fill out that information up to week 7. Okay. And that's helping you an awful lot.
Thank you, Doctor.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So that's giving you an awful lot of information. So the the bulk of the work is done for you, and you just have to project it out by another 2 weeks. Okay. Are we happy enough with that, folks?
Yeah.
Just close that. Okay, that's that. And so on that then, I won't. I'll put up this recording and such that you can go back over and review it and get some points out of it, just to be sure. And yep, I will let you go. If you have no further questions, then I'll let you go off and work on the assignment based on the information I'm after giving you now, at least on the individual ones for the Meteor and now the group assignment. Okay, folks?
Yes, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions, or are you happy enough to go on?
No questions so far.
No more questions?
Yeah.
Everyone else happy? Yeah? Dave, Sandra, John, Oliver, everyone? Yeah. Okay, folks. Listen, I'll let you go. I'll go back to the editing that I was doing that caused all the problems at the start on this recording for you, and then I'll upload that to YouTube as well, and so you can go back over and understand what's happening. Okay, folks. We'll talk to you next. Oh, we don't see you next week. Sure, we don't. No, we don't. Sorry, Sandra.
I said probably after 2 weeks.
Yes. So enjoy the break. Okay, folks, take it easy. We'll talk to you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.